Frank Sinatra sat alone in a private room at Caesar's palace, his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. The chairman of the board, the man who'd performed for presidents, who'd commanded stages across the world, who never showed weakness, was crying. And Muhammad Ali, the man who'd just cost Sinatra $1 million, was the one trying to comfort him. Before we continue with the story, you can support us by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are. Let's continue. Frank, look at me, Ali said gently. It's just money. It's not about the money, Sinatra choked out. It's about, I was so sure, so damn sure you'd lose. I told everyone. I bet against you in front of the whole world. And you, he looked up at Ali, tears streaming down his face. You were magnificent, and I'm the idiot who bet against greatness. This was March 1971, the night of the fight of the century, Ali versus Joe Frazier, the most anticipated sporting event in history. And Frank Sinatra had just learned the most expensive lesson of his life: never bet against Muhammad Ali. But to understand why Sinatra was crying, why Ali was in this room instead of celebrating, why this moment would change both their lives, you need to know what happened before the fight. You need to know about the bet, about the pride, about how the most confident man in entertainment made the biggest mistake of his career. And you need to know what Ali did next. Because it wasn't revenge. It wasn't gloating. It was something that would forge an unlikely friendship between a boxer and a singer and teach both of them something profound about winning, losing, and what it means to be gracious in victory. 3 weeks before the fight, Frank Sinatra walked into the Caesar's Palace sports book like he owned the place, which in a way he did. Sinatra had connections throughout Vegas. Caesar's was his second home. When Frank Sinatra wanted something in this town, he got it. And what he wanted was to bet big against Muhammad Ali. $1 million on Frazier, Sinatra announced to the bookmaker, loud enough for everyone in the sports book to hear. Ali's finished. Frazier's going to destroy him. The sports book went quiet. $1 million was serious money, even in Vegas, even for Sinatra. The bookmaker, a seasoned professional named Mickey Rosenberg, leaned forward. Frank, that's a big bet. You sure about this? Sure? Mickey, I'm more sure about this than anything in my life. Ali's been out of boxing for 3 years. 3 years. He's rusty, he's slower, he's past his prime. Frazier's been active, fighting, staying sharp. It's not even going to be close. He pulled out a checkbook, started writing. The scratch of pen on paper was the only sound in the room. Ali was great once. I'll give him that. But this comeback? It's ego. It's delusion. And Joe Frazier's going to teach him that you can't come back from 3 years of exile and expect to beat the current champion. Someone in the crowd spoke up, a young guy, maybe mid-20s, wearing an Ali t-shirt. Mr. Sinatra, Ali's undefeated. He never lost his title in the ring. He only lost it because he refused to serve his country. Sinatra cut him off. His voice an edge now. Don't lecture me about Ali. I respect what he did in the ring. But he made his choices. And now he's facing the consequences. Joe Frazier is younger, hungrier, and he's been fighting while Ali was giving speeches and making appearances. This isn't a boxing match. It's a demolition. He signed the check with a flourish, slid it across to Mickey. $1 million. Frazier by knockout. And make sure everyone knows Frank Sinatra put his money where his mouth is. Word spread fast. By that evening, every major newspaper had the story. Sinatra bets $1 million against Ali. Sports columnists wrote think pieces about it. Vegas odds shifted, and Muhammad Ali, training in Miami, heard about it and just smiled. Sinatra? Ali said to his trainer, Angelo Dundee, that cat can sing, but he don't know nothing about boxing. He's about to learn an expensive lesson. But Ali's smile faded when he saw the headlines. Sinatra hadn't just bet against him. He'd made it public, made it personal, made it about Ali being washed up and delusional. That stung, not because Ali doubted himself, but because Sinatra had been someone he respected, someone whose music he'd listened to, someone who represented a certain kind of cool, a certain kind of class. And now that man was telling the world Ali was finished. Let him bet, Ali said quietly. Let him tell everyone I'm done. Because on March 8th, I'm going to show him and everyone else that Muhammad Ali doesn't lose. Not to Joe Frazier. Not to anyone. And after I win, maybe I'll find Mr. Sinatra and teach him something about loyalty. But what Ali didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that after the fight, he'd find Sinatra. And the lesson wouldn't be about loyalty. It would be about something deeper: grace, humility, and the difference between winning with your fists and winning with your character. Madison Square Garden, March 8th, 1971. 20,000 people packed into the arena, with another 300 million watching worldwide. The fight of the century lived up to its name. 15 brutal rounds of two undefeated champions trying to break each other. Frank Sinatra was there, working as a photographer for Life magazine. He'd accepted the assignment partly for the access, partly for the glamour, but mostly to be there when Ali lost. To see it firsthand, to watch Joe Frazier prove him right. Sinatra stood ringside with his camera, capturing every moment. But as the fight progressed, something gnawed at him. Ali was supposed to be rusty, slow, past his prime. But the man in the ring, dancing, jabbing, talking to Frazier between punches, didn't look finished. He looked magnificent. By round 10, Sinatra's confidence started to crack. Ali was ahead on most scorecards. Frazier was tough, relentless, but Ali was boxing brilliantly. The comeback was real. The 3-year exile hadn't destroyed him. If anything, it had made him hungrier. Round 15, the final round. Frazier landed his legendary left hook, the one that would become iconic, and Ali went down. The crowd exploded. Sinatra's heart leaped. Maybe, just maybe, he'd win the bet after all. But Ali got up, beat the count, finished the fight on his feet. The decision was announced. Joe Frazier, unanimous decision. Frazier had won. Sinatra had won his bet. But as Sinatra watched Ali's face, disappointed but unbowed, exhausted but dignified, he felt something unexpected. Not joy, not vindication, but shame. He'd bet $1 million against a man who'd just given everything in the ring, who'd come back from 3 years of exile to fight 15 rounds with the champion, who'd lost the decision but won something more important: respect. Proof that his comeback was real. Proof that Muhammad Ali was still Muhammad Ali. And Sinatra had publicly bet against him, had called him washed up, delusional, finished. As the crowd began to leave, as journalists rushed to interview the fighters, Frank Sinatra quietly left Madison Square Garden and headed back to his hotel. He didn't want to celebrate, didn't want to collect his winnings, didn't want to face anyone who'd ask him about the bet. For the first time in his life, Frank Sinatra wanted to disappear. Caesar's Palace, later that night. The post-fight party was in full swing. Celebrities, high rollers, fight fans all celebrating what they'd just witnessed. But Frank Sinatra wasn't there. He was in a private room upstairs, door locked, phone unplugged, sitting in the dark with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a crushing sense of regret. He'd collected his winnings, $1.8 million including the payout, but the money felt dirty. He'd made it by betting against a man who'd just displayed more courage and heart than Sinatra had seen in any performance, any stage, any arena. Ali had lost the decision, but he'd won something Sinatra suddenly understood he'd never had: the ability to lose with grace. Someone knocked on the door. "Frank? You in there? Party's downstairs. Everyone's asking for you." "Tell them I'm not feeling well," Sinatra called out. Tell them I'll see them tomorrow." "Come on, Frank. You won your bet. Everyone wants to toast you." "I said I'm not coming." Sinatra's voice cracked. He took another drink, stared at the wall, hated himself for caring so much about something that should have made him happy. The footsteps retreated. Sinatra was alone again, the way he deserved to be. Another knock. Softer this time. "Frank, I said I'm not." "Mr. Sinatra?" A different voice. Not his people. Younger, with a distinctive cadence. "It's Muhammad Ali. Can I come in?" Sinatra froze. Of all the people in Vegas that night, Muhammad Ali was the last person he wanted to face. The man he'd publicly humiliated. The man he called washed up and finished. The man who just proved him wrong by going 15 rounds with the champion. I'm not available right now," Sinatra managed. "Mr. Sinatra, please. Just 5 minutes." Sinatra looked at the door. He could ignore it, could wait for Ali to leave, could avoid this conversation forever. But something in Ali's tone, not angry, not mocking, just persistent, made him stand up, made him unlock the door, made him face the man he'd wronged. Muhammad Ali stood in the doorway, still in his dress clothes from the fight, face swollen, eye nearly shut, moving carefully because his body had just survived 15 rounds of war. But he was smiling. That famous Ali smile. "Can I come in?" Ali asked. Sinatra stepped aside. Ali walked in, looked around the dark room, saw the bottle, saw Sinatra's face, and understood immediately what was happening. "You feel bad about the bet," Ali said. Not a question, a statement. Sinatra's jaw tightened. "I won. I should feel great. I should be downstairs celebrating. But you're not." "No, because you realized something tonight." Ali sat down, winced as his body protested. "You realize that betting against someone isn't just about money. It's about believing in their failure, wanting their failure. And when they give everything, even when they lose, their courage makes your bet feel dirty." Sinatra stared at Ali. How do you know that's what I'm feeling?" "Because I've seen it before. People bet against me all my life. On my fights, on my career, on my comeback. And the ones who really pay attention, the ones with souls, they always feel bad after. Win or lose, they realize they were rooting against something bigger than just a boxing match. They were rooting against heart, against courage, against someone trying to be great." Ali leaned forward. "Mr. Sinatra, you want to know the truth? I lost tonight. Joe Frazier beat me. First loss of my career. But I don't feel like I lost. You know why?" Sinatra shook his head. "Because I went 15 rounds with the champion after 3 years of not fighting. Because I proved I could come back. Because I showed everyone, including you, that Muhammad Ali is still Muhammad Ali." He smiled. "Your bet didn't hurt me, Mr. Sinatra. You hurt yourself." Frank Sinatra sat there, holding his glass of whiskey, looking at this man who should have been angry, should have been vengeful, should have been anything except kind. And something broke inside him. "I'm sorry," Sinatra said, and his voice cracked. "I'm sorry I bet against you. I'm sorry I said those things. I'm sorry I wanted you to fail." "Why did you?" Ali asked. "What did I ever do to you?" "Nothing. You did nothing." Sinatra set down his glass. I think I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of what you represent. You refused to go to Vietnam. You gave up everything for your principles. You sacrificed your title, your prime years, your income, all because you believed in something. And he laughed bitterly. "I've spent my whole life making compromises, doing what was necessary, playing the game. And you didn't play the game. You stood on principle even when it cost you everything." Sinatra looked directly at Ali. "I bet against you because I wanted you to fail. Because if you came back and won, it meant that principle matters more than compromise. That character matters more than career. And that would mean I'd spend my whole life doing it wrong." The room was silent except for the distant sound of the party downstairs. Ali absorbed what Sinatra had just confessed. This raw, honest truth from a man who'd built his entire persona on never showing weakness. "Mr. Sinatra," Ali said quietly, "you want to know something? I admire you." Sinatra's head snapped up. "What?" "I admire you. Your music, your style, the way you command a room. You're the chairman of the board. You're an icon. You've done things I'll never do, reach people I'll never reach. But I just told you. I know what you told me. You made compromises. You played the game. You bet against me because you were scared of what I represented." Ali leaned forward. "But you know what took more courage than anything I did tonight? What you just did right now. Admitting all that. Being honest about your fear. That's harder than any fight I've ever been in." Sinatra's eyes filled with tears. "I don't understand. I bet against you. I wanted you to lose. Why aren't you angry?" "Because I know something about winning and losing that took me years to learn. It's not about what happens in the ring. It's about what happens after. I lost tonight, Frank. First loss of my career. But I'm not sitting in a dark room drinking whiskey and hating myself. You won your bet. You made almost $2 million. But you're the one who can't face people." Ali stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the Las Vegas lights. "You know what that tells me? That winning and losing aren't about the score. They're about how you carry yourself. I lost tonight with dignity. You won without it. So who really lost? I did, Sinatra whispered. No. Ollie turned back. You're losing right now, in this moment, by sitting here alone. But you don't have to keep losing. You can walk out that door, go downstairs, face the people at that party. You can tell that you learned something tonight, that you were wrong about Muhammad Ali, that you're sorry. That takes more guts than any bet. They'll think I'm weak. They'll think you're human. And you know what? There's nothing stronger than a man who admits he was wrong. Nothing. Not money, not fame, not power. The ability to say, I was wrong. That's the rarest strength in the world. Sinatra stood up, walked over to Ali. Without a word, he pulled Ali into an embrace. And then Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board, the voice, the man who'd performed for presidents and kings, broke down crying on Muhammad Ali's shoulder. I was so wrong about you, Sinatra sobbed. So wrong. You're not just a great fighter. You're a great man. And I'm just a singer who bet against greatness because I was too scared to believe in it. Ali held him. Let him cry. Let him release years of compromise and fear and the weight of building a persona that couldn't show weakness. And when Sinatra finally pulled back, wiping his eyes, Ali smiled. You're not just a singer, Frank. You're the voice. You're an icon. You're Frank Sinatra. And tonight, you became something more. You became my friend. Frank Sinatra and Muhammad Ali walked into the post-fight party together. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the boxer who'd just lost his first fight, at the singer who'd won a fortune betting against him, at these two men entering together like old friends. Sinatra walked to the microphone on the stage where a band had been playing. He gestured for silence. Ladies and gentlemen, Sinatra began, his voice carrying that famous authority, I need to say something. 3 weeks ago, I made a bet. I bet $1 million against Muhammad Ali. I said he was washed up, finished, delusional. I said Joe Frazier would destroy him. The room was dead silent. Ali stood at the back, watching. I won that bet, Sinatra continued. I made a lot of money tonight. But I also learned something. I learned that winning isn't always about the scorecards. It's about heart. It's about courage. It's about giving everything you have even when the odds are against you. He looked directly at Ali. Muhammad Ali lost the decision tonight. But he won something more important. He won respect. He won dignity. He proved that 3 years of exile couldn't kill his spirit. And I bet against that. I bet against one of the greatest displays of courage I've ever seen. And I'm ashamed. Sinatra's voice cracked. So, I want to publicly apologize to Muhammad Ali. You didn't deserve my doubt. You didn't deserve my public humiliation. You deserve my respect. And from this moment forward, you have it. All of it. Forever. The room erupted in applause. People stood, and Muhammad Ali walked through the crowd, climbed onto the stage, and shook Frank Sinatra's hand. Mr. Sinatra, Ali said into the microphone, his voice hoarse from the fight, just taught everyone here something more valuable than boxing. He taught us that real strength is admitting when you're wrong. That real courage is facing your mistakes. That real class is apologizing publicly when you've wronged someone publicly. Ali put his arm around Sinatra. Frank Sinatra bet against me. And then Frank Sinatra became my friend. And I'll take his friendship over any victory. The party exploded, cheering, crying, everyone moved by what they just witnessed. And Frank Sinatra and Muhammad Ali stayed on that stage. Two legends from different worlds, bonded by a moment of honesty and grace that transcended sports and entertainment. Frank Sinatra and Muhammad Ali remained friends until Ali's death in 2016. They didn't see each other often. Their lives, their circles, their worlds were too different. But when they did connect, there was genuine warmth, genuine respect, genuine love. Sinatra donated the $1.8 million he'd won from the bet, all of it, to Ali's favorite charity, a foundation for Parkinson's research. He did it quietly, didn't publicize it, didn't want credit. But Ali found out and called him. Frank, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. I made that money betting against you, against your heart, against your courage. That money's dirty, but maybe it can do some good now. In 1974, when Ali fought George Foreman in Zaire, Sinatra bet on Ali. Not $1 million, but enough to make a statement. And when Ali won, Sinatra was one of the first to call him. "I told you," Sinatra said, "never bet against greatness." "You learned that lesson the expensive way," Ali laughed. "Best money I ever spent." Years later, when Ali's Parkinson's had progressed, when speaking was difficult and his hands shook constantly, Sinatra visited him. They sat together, mostly in silence, but it was comfortable silence. The silence of two men who'd learned something profound together. "Muhammad," Sinatra said at one point, his own voice aged by years of smoking and performing, "I want to thank you." Ali looked at him, questioning. "That night in Vegas, when you came to my room, when I was sitting there hating myself, you could have destroyed me, could have mocked me, humiliated me, made me pay for betting against you. But you didn't. You showed me grace. You taught me that winning with class means more than just winning." Sinatra's eyes filled with tears. "I've performed for presidents. I've sung for millions. I've made money and fame and everything society says matters. But that night, sitting in that dark room with you, that's when I learned what really matters. Character, grace, the ability to win without destroying your opponent. That's power, real power." Ali took Sinatra's hand, both of them shaking now, Ali from Parkinson's, Sinatra from age, and smiled. That famous Ali smile, even through the disease. "You taught me something too, Frank," Ali said, his words slow but clear. "You taught me that people can change, that admitting you're wrong takes more courage than any fight. That real friendship starts with honesty." They sat there, two legends at the end of their lives, holding hands like children, crying together. And the weight of that Vegas night, the bet, the regret, the conversation, the transformation, all of it came full circle. When Frank Sinatra died in 1998, Muhammad Ali attended the funeral. He couldn't speak well by then. Parkinson's had taken most of his voice, but he insisted on being there, on honoring the man who'd learned to honor him. At the reception after the funeral, someone asked Ali about his relationship with Sinatra, about how it had started. Ali struggled with the words, but he pushed through. "Frank bet against me, made me angry. But then, something beautiful happened. He admitted he was wrong, changed everything." Someone pressed for details. Ali smiled, that same smile he'd given Sinatra in that dark Vegas hotel room 27 years earlier. "He taught me winning isn't enough. How you win, that's what matters. Grace in victory, that's real strength." When Muhammad Ali died in 2016, Sinatra's daughter Nancy spoke at the memorial service. She told the story of the bet, the fight, the conversation in the hotel room. She explained how that night had changed her father, made him more humble, more willing to admit mistakes, more aware that character mattered more than winning. "My father won a bet that night," Nancy said. "But he told me, years later, that he lost something more important, his arrogance. And he gained something even more valuable, Muhammad's friendship. He said it was the best trade he ever made." The story became legend in both boxing and entertainment circles. It was used to teach lessons about grace, humility, redemption, about how winning isn't just about the score, but about how you carry yourself afterward, about how the ability to admit you're wrong defines character more than the ability to be right. Sports psychologists studied it. Business schools taught it. Parents told it to their children because it contains something rare, two legends at the peak of their powers, teaching each other and the world that real strength isn't about never losing. It's about how you handle both victory and defeat. Muhammad Ali lost the fight of a century, but he won something more valuable, the respect of a man who doubted him. And Frank Sinatra won his bet, but he learned something that money can't buy, that grace in victory matters more than the victory itself. The story of Frank Sinatra's bet isn't really about money or boxing or even celebrity. It's about what happens when ego meets grace, when winning meets wisdom, when someone who bet against greatness has to face the man he wronged. Frank Sinatra could have avoided Ali that night, could have celebrated his win, collected his money, moved on with his life. But guilt, real, crushing guilt, drove him to that dark room, that bottle of whiskey, that moment of reckoning. And Muhammad Ali could have destroyed him, could have walked into that room and delivered verbal punches that would have knocked Sinatra out, could have humiliated the man who'd publicly bet against him, could have taken revenge. But he didn't. Instead, Ollie did something harder. He showed compassion. He understood that Sinatra's bet wasn't really about Ollie. It was about Sinatra's fear, his own insecurities, his struggle with what Ollie represented. That's what separated Ollie from other champions. Not his speed or power or charisma, but his ability to see people, really see them, and understand their pain. To meet hatred with love, doubt with grace, public humiliation with private kindness. And that's what made Sinatra's transformation possible. Because Ollie didn't demand an apology, didn't require groveling, just offered friendship, understanding, a path forward. Two men, one night, $1 million bet that became worthless the moment real connection happened. And a friendship that taught both of them, and everyone who heard the story, that the score doesn't define the game. Character does. Muhammad Ali was the greatest boxer who ever lived. But that night in Vegas, he showed he was something more, the greatest kind of winner. The kind who lifts up the people who bet against him. The kind who turns enemies into friends. The kind who understands that true victory isn't about making others lose. It's about helping them win. And Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board, learned that night what it means to be truly powerful. Not fame or money or status, but the courage to admit you're wrong. The strength to apologize publicly. The grace to accept forgiveness you don't deserve. That's the legacy of the $1 million bet. Not the money, not the fight, but two legends teaching the world that how you win matters more than winning. That grace trumps victory. That friendship beats revenge every single time.